we got this year to watch it and find out.
If they can follow through what they presented yesterday, I think it would be good an organization for this town to be a part of. And I think if the town became a part of it, then perhaps we could get more businesses in the town to be a part of it too, because I was going down through the list that they had, and there aren't very many Oakland businesses. And I would like to see more in Oakland be a part of it if the town decides to go with it. But they made a very nice presentation yesterday, and if they follow through with that presentation, then I think it's a worthy group to be a part of.
So we need to clearly have more conversation as time goes by, you know, pin them down to, let's see some positive results, where's the money going, what's it accomplishing, and what their goals are, and taking a close look at, you know, their expenses, that's very important.
They won't drop the ball on us. They will continue to engage with us to see, to get us involved, so I'm sure that we won't stop doing that.
I threw out an informal answer, offer to him, just to Darwin, and he said, I'll run it up in Flagpole. I can see why they wouldn't want to make a break in their assessment of their charges to us, as opposed to the other communities might not like it, but I thought it was see how they reacted to it. So there was a carrot out there for us. But we'll see, as time goes by, we'll continue this, I hope.
But they really got a year now, they can, during the course of this year, they can really work on it and say, hey, you know what, we want to be a part of Oakland, and we have a business that we can put in your town. Boom, thank you.
Find a
Next year,
peanut
by
butter
gosh,
shop.
we'll be jumping with Lori and saying, let's go. Sign us up.
Because they made an effort to make sure that, you know, any fruits that are realized are spread around or directed all over, not just water.
Do we have any interest in First Park?
Interest as in what?
Any businesses interested in the works to
Well, we had,
relocate?
there was a business that was interested in First Park, and it was a dialysis unit. And they were looking to subdivide one of the lots up there, which the charter for First Park wasn't going to allow that. Kind of pushed them out of the equation. Other than that, we don't have anything to my knowledge that's really having in there. Brad is working on some Canadian companies, trying to bring them in, and he's claiming he's having some success. I don't know how close he is to bringing something down yet.
You really don't know until they sign on the dotted line, but that was I was going to mention too, that he has some people he's working with, but you never know until they sign on the dotted line.
First
He's
Park
working
has
hard to
really strict guidelines, and because of those guidelines, they're very limited on who they will attract.
And one thing about First Park, though, and I know there's been a lot of articles in the paper, and they're all quite negative about First Park. But one thing they do, they put $21 million into this area in wages, just T-Mobile.
Wow.
Puts $21 million into this area of wages. So, you know, that's not a real bad story.
And they employ 600? Is that correct?
It's $750 now.
Yeah, it's up now, it's up high again. It was down as low as 400, wasn't it, or something like that? A year or two ago, but it's up again now.
But they also have other employees spread out. You've got Maine General's got their facility up there, and you've got a couple of doctor's offices in there, actually quite a few doctor's offices, and you've got the accounting firm that's sitting in there, so there's a lot of employees who actually travel to work there every day.
And FW Webb is not
No,
in
they're not
First
on
Park.
First Park, they're totally in Oakland.
Was that DCI that was interested in the dialysis unit there?
It's the same company that services Maine General, so if that's DCI, then it's the same company.
Would it be possible to engage with them and maybe offer some land?
I've
'Cause
talked
they-
with them.
Because they need to build a freestanding unit, and apparently the drainage problems that is there, they can't build a new unit there.
They are a tax exempt facility. So wherever they build, there won't be any property tax on it, but they do bring employment. I mean, so there's, you know, you can look at it from both angles. They have talked with us, they've talked with me on a couple of occasions, looking for property. We have property available in Oakland, I've shared with them where it was, but unfortunately, the property on KMD commands a high price, and that's a concern.
Somebody could lease the land to them.
Somebody could.
Didn't they want to own it?
What's that?
Didn't they want to own it?
They did want to own it, they actually booked that facility that you're thinking about. And, but it wasn't gonna work for them because that's only 8,400 square feet and they need something around 12,000 square feet.
Further discussion? If there is none, can we have a motion? Nope. Jerry, sorry?
When you say further discussion, are you talking on the budget?
Yes.
Question, Gary. The 1% COLA, is that given to every employee in the town?
That would be given to every employee.
Okay. Then I would like to see some type of a motion, some type of I guess a motion that would give all people that are 65 and older a 1% or 2% or 1% discount on their taxes, because the people that I have talked to did not get any kind of COLA at all this year. They're on Social Security, and yet you're asking them, like you're asking everybody else, to pay into the raise for the town employees. And I'm not saying we don't need to give them a raise. I'm saying that we need to give the seniors a break. And I think that a 1% break on their taxes, if they're 65 or older, would be a nice gesture for this town to make. And if there's a question on how you find out who's 65 and older, then you can have, people come in with their driver's license, you can have them come in with a birth certificate, you can have them come in with some kind of a notary documentation, but something should be available for seniors. And if it goes out as a notice on the tax bill, when the tax bill goes out in June, July, August, whenever they're gonna go out, then the seniors, I have no question, the seniors will take advantage of it. They've all told me, boy, would they like to see something like that, because they didn't get any raise. What they actually did was get a decline in their income, because the money that comes in from their Social Security stayed the same, and the money that they're paying out for their insurance has gone up, so their ultimate income is lower. And I feel that would be an awfully nice thing to do for 65 and older people in this town.
That's gonna open up a can of worms, because if you do senior citizen, then the disabled are gonna want a discount too. And then before you know it, every group's gonna find a way in. I mean, not saying that it's not a great idea, but, people that are disabled didn't get a raise either, because they're on Social Security.
I like what Sherry's saying when you're talking about set income that you can't do anything about, and you're not getting a COLA or anything like that, because already those who live in town on the sewer are making up for a previous mistake in clerical error. And like my mother's sewer went from $75 to $125 times 4, the quarters. And we know we're gonna get hit with a school budget. So, I mean, our senior citizens have been here for a very long time, and I think they are one of the backbones of our financial support in the budget. They seem to keep their homes.
I'm not disagreeing, but I think as a group, we're a budget committee to keep the budget down. So, as far as saying that any one group should get a 1%, I think we're all trying to, whether it's department heads or whatever, keep the budget down. It could, easily go up 1% more than it is, or 2% more than it is, or 5% more than it is. But that's what we're here doing, is keeping the budget down. So I'm not saying everybody that's 65 and over is getting a 1% discount, but I think the 1% discount for everybody 65 and over versus the 1% COLA that the few people in town are getting, the dollars have gotta be massive difference.
You're looking at about a $22,000 cost for a 1% COLA.
For everybody.
For everybody, that's part-time, full-time.
And I know you don't have a count of how many are 65 and over and what they pay for taxes, but,
It would be
1% on 1% on Ned's house is a lot more than mine.
And I did do a study on other
Still have to.
towns. And the average is 1.73% of the 29 respondents that sent me back response.
I'd also like to add that, as I mentioned at an earlier meeting, the homestead exemption has increased. So everyone will be getting 75, at a $15 mill rate, every homeowner who qualifies for that will get $75 off their taxes. If there's no increase in the mill rate, those homeowners would, their tax bill will go down by $75 this year.
And that in itself cost us a loss of $4 million worth of taxable profit.
Yes.
Then perhaps we should look at, instead of giving all the employees a 1% raise, we should perhaps give them a 0.5% raise, a half a percent raise. Maybe we should do something different. But it seems that the seniors have been hit and hit and hit some more. And and what Bonnie said about the 35% raise on the sewer bill was, boy, that was a hit and a half for anybody that's a senior and lives in this town and has to pay the sewer bill, not gets to pay, but has to pay the sewer bill. That's a huge hit too. And you've got people out there that are jockeying their medications around, and they're jockeying all sorts of foods that they buy around because they can't afford it. You've got to remember, they got Social Security, especially if you're 70, 80, if you're that old, you got your Social Security when it wasn't a whole lot. It's a lot different than getting Social Security today. And the older you are, the less you actually ever got for Social Security. I think it's something that should be considered. And if you're talking about, the budget being too high, then number one, you need to go to all these board meetings. I've sent everybody information on it, and people need to go to all those school board meetings and speak up about the school budget. But also, I think something needs to be done in regard to what our town is doing too.
Comments, questions?
That's a very good point about, we're hitting the people that can least afford it, especially on the comments about the story.
Well, too.
One thing that's kind of interesting, the terminology of COLA is probably improperly being applied to what is proposed for the town employees. COLA is generally a term that came out in the mid-70s and has to do with Social Security retirement. Maybe we should change that. I don't know anybody else feels about that. But this is mission creep again, where do we, for example, in the future, when new hires coming on, we're gonna have a different pay scale, we're gonna start out with different benefits agreements, there's gonna be a big change so that we don't see this incessant giving of benefits to our town employees that nobody else under any other employment scale, except in the town, maybe government, receives.
Well, I mean, as far as new employees coming in, I'm trying to bring them up. Virtually every employee that we have working for the town of Oakland, if you compare it to where they are as far as an average to different municipalities, we've had this discussion, it's been beat up over the years, we're lower than average. And, so how much is it to ask to at least bring our employees to average? Really, you wouldn't work for substandard wages, unfortunately. We do, not substandard, but substandard compared to other municipalities and other towns, and that's lower than the private sector.
Well, it's hard to tell, Gary, where the private sector is these days. There's still big pockets of unemployment, so it's really,
Well, the state of Maine's claiming that the unemployment level is the lowest it's ever been.
right around 6, I guess, at a flat unemployment.
And the people who aren't working are the ones who really don't want to work.
Yeah.
If they want to work, you can work in the state of Maine. Pretty much so. You know, so it's treating our employees, you know, and the thing is, our employees in this town in particular do an exceptional job. I mean, look at the budget they brought to us, you know, the quality, look at what our maintenance department's doing for us right now and our town crew. I mean, these guys have got skill sets that other towns would love to cabbage onto these people, you know, and I don't think it's a lot to ask. You know, if I send out a mass email to all these neighboring departments and towns, and they send me back and it's shown that some of them were given as high as a 2.5% COLA, and, you know, the average across the board, I believe you got all the paperwork on, is 1.73, we're basically half of that. You know, so we're really doing our job to not only keep our employees as happy as possible, but to keep our taxpayers as happy as possible. And I think that this 1% is certainly finding an equitable middle ground here. You know, we're not trying to create any hate and discontent. I certainly understand Sherry's concern about people over 65. I have a mother who's 75 who lives by herself. You know, I feel awful about the 35% sewer rate. But unfortunately, that beast was built before I came here, and we were about to go in the hole with our with our sewer department. We didn't make some drastic changes. Fortunately, we have Boyd Stoughton on here, and he has got a couple of wins in place, and I think we're gonna go see some huge changes this summer. So, I mean, we're working towards resolution on that. And, you know, I think that we're doing a good job, and I don't think 1% is too much to ask for our people. I think that we have a good staff, and I think they deserve at least 1%.
Well, I certainly agree, you've done a good job of presenting the budget to us, and all of us, I think, are aware that we have a great group of town employees. That's not the issue. I'm talking about where we're headed in the future and what principles and guidance we're gonna give ourselves, and, you know, how we present this to the
And if I'm
taxpayers.
able to do my job, and I'm able to continue to bring new businesses and keep these property taxes low, this is gonna be a new point.
Well, I know that, dealing with people who have to, I'm aware of that. There's nothing personal here. This is, you know, where are we going? And it's really hard to, it's hard to know where our economy is headed. And we all know that we're further out from the economic centers where the growth and the pay rates are higher. And the further you get from those, they tend to drop off a little bit, with the exception of the successful entrepreneurs, and they're the ones that keep areas churning along. Thank goodness for it. Just an economic consideration. What path are we on?
I think we're on a good path.
I agree with Sherry that geez, someday, soon I'm gonna be there probably, but, and worrying about that kind of a financial problem. But I agree with you that I think the town, I said earlier, that the town has done a great job. We've done a great job, and I think that you have to keep up. If you're gonna get economic development, you have to keep up. You have to keep the town looking well, and you have to maintain it. And it's, I think in many ways, we'd like to spend a lot more than we are, but the effort has been to keep it affordable here, and I think that's been, the town's done great with that. I think that making those adjustments to the pay is just absolutely essential. And I think the problem is, unfortunately, the buck stops here in terms of payment. The problem is I think, a bigger scale. The federal government and even the state government is taking a lot of the bang, or all of the bucks out of their pocket, and it doesn't get back here. And I think we're struggling. I've seen it the whole time I've lived there. The town trying, the school district, and I know we complain about the school budget. I mean, there's probably a little bit of waste in every budget somewhere, but I don't think there's much in the Oakland town budget, the municipal budget. And I'm hoping that there isn't a whole lot in the school budget, but it costs to do things anywhere. And unfortunately, I think the revenue goes to the wrong place many times, and that's what's really making the crunch. And I also so I really wish I could get more done. But it's I think that looking at cutting things out of our municipal budget is really shooting us in the foot. I mean, there's so many other places that take big money, and we're not, I don't think the town is doing that. And I reiterate that I think the town and the departments do a great job. And I think the council has been great at that. I mean, it's not something that I'm real concerned about, the spending in town, because I've watched it work and they're doing a great job. So I like to say that, and give everybody a break, but I don't think we can.
And just so you know, the senior citizens can also apply for the rent rebate. It's a tax fairness property as well. So if they actually applied for that, they'd get way more than 1% if they are that low income. They would get a portion of
My
that.
mother does apply for that, okay? Almost everybody that qualifies and knows about it applies for it, I do believe. But giving you an example of a $75 cut for a $200 increase on a sewer bill doesn't quite make up the gap. And I agree with Gary, there are people who deserve a pay raise, but I think when it comes to the budget committee, you've got to take emotions out of it, you've got to take what people deserve. A lot of us deserve more than what we get. That shouldn't be an equation, in my mind, as part of the budget.
I know it'll probably never happen, but fast food workers keep saying they want $15 an hour. You get $15 an hour, you're not gonna have a transfer crew over there. You might have John, but everybody else is gonna be gone, because they're gonna be making $3 to $5 an hour more, swinging hamburgers at McDonald's, just to put it in perspective. Just barely, some guys are just barely above minimum wage.
And that's not the only one.
No, I just have that page.
And if they get $15 an hour at McDonald's, they're not going to get the benefits that they get here in town.
Have a motion? Motion adjourned. Second, all in favor? Good night, folks, and thank you.
See you on the ninth. Ninth.